Lysosomal storage diseases are rare diseases that are caused by inborn errors of metabolisms. These conditions are due to deficiency in enzymes and transport within the lysosome, and these one are trying to brought a wide variety of these lysosomal storage diseases. And now let us discuss what you need to know for each of these conditions. Lysosomal storage diseases are again conditions of inborn errors of metabolism. Inborn, which means that they are inherited conditions and they are inherited in recessive manner. And because it is recessively inherited, they are relatively rare. So, the lysosome essentially can uptake many different compounds including mucopolysaccharides, sphingolipids, glycolipids, and proteins and transport them within a lysosome. Each of these compounds has a specific enzyme within a lysosome that degrades that or metabolizes that compound. And then, the lysosome essentially releases the metabolites through another transporter. So you can see where a transition of enzymes or transporters that export the metabolites out of the lysosome. We're gonna have issues, and what happened is there is a progressive accumulation of partially degraded material. So that is why these conditions are called lysosomal storage diseases. They essentially relate to build-up or accumulation of storage of compounds. Either they lead to accumulation of the primary compounds like mucopolysaccharides, sphingolipids, glycolipids, or proteins, where they can lead to the accumulation of metabolites as well. So we can see that there are many things that can get caught up and stuck and stored in the lysosome. The first condition that we're talking is cystinosis. Cystinosis is due to cysteine. So, cysteine is a breakdown product of a protein degradation. This condition is essentially due to defective lysosomal transport protein known as cystinosin. So, cystinosin is essentially an exporter, and it exports cysteine. And if we don't have an exporter, or if we're not able to export the cysteine through cystinosin, or we can get accumulation of cysteine, and this condition is due to limitation of chromosome 17. And there are actually three forms of cystinosis. There is the nephropathic or the infantile form, late onset, juvenile form, and the adult benign form. Essentially, to remember what cystinosis is, we can break the word down itself. Cystine, the prefix means cystine. That's pretty easy. And osis means an abnormal condition, so cystinosis, just simply the word itself, will help us remember what this condition is. So cystinosis is the abnormal condition of cysteine. So it's the abnormal condition of accumulated cysteine in the lysosome. The next condition we're talking is Fabry disease. So Fabry disease is due to a deficiency of the enzyme alpha-galactosidase A. It leads to the accumulation of ceramide trihexoside, and it's the most prevalent lysosomal storage disease. So this is the most important thing to remember. This is the most prevalent lysosomal storage disease. It is also important to remember because it is X-linked inherited condition, and because X-linked are inherited, males are more severely affected. Females can be affected, but males are more generally speaking, males are more severely affected. These conditions involves neuropathic pain, angiokeratomas, and renal failure. And the way we can remember the enzyme and the accumulated product to form Fabry disease is by thinking of one or both of these phrases. A fabulous ceramic galaxy. The other phrase can also help you. It's based on the same thing. I fabricated a ceramic galaxy. So make everything you have to know to remember Fabry disease from a fabulous ceramic galaxy. Fab, you can think of Fabry, ceramic, you can think of ceramide, and galaxy, you can think of galactosidase, and then the X can help you remember that this is an X-linked inherited. I fabricated a ceramic galaxy or a fabulous ceramic galaxy will help you remember the enzyme and the accumulated product in the Fabry disease along with X-linked pattern. The next condition is Gaucher or Gaucher's disease. This is due to a deficiency of the enzyme glucocerebrosidase. As the name suggests, it leads to the accumulation of glucocerebrosidase in the lysosome. This mutation causing its condition located in chromosome 1. And splenomegaly section is actually the most common physical finding in Gaucher's disease. You may also see osteonecrosis of femoral head. And under a microscope, when you look at cells, you might see what is termed as tissue paper cytoplasm. Tissue paper cytoplasm. As you can see in this image here, you can see essentially it looks like tissue paper that has been crumpled up within the cell. And that's what we call tissue paper cytoplasm. So how we can remember the enzyme and the accumulated product formed in Gaucher's disease? Think about phrase, gosh, you're so sweet, bro. So gosh or Gaucher disease, you can think of that part of Gaucher's disease as gosh. You're so sweet. Sweet, you can remember by gluco in glucocerebrosidase or glucocerebroside and bro. That also help you clue in that bro is also that word. Sweet bro, glucocerebroside. So again, gosh, you're so sweet, bro. You can remember even more from this mnemonic by thinking that the person is crying, they're blowing into a tissue paper, they're blowing their nose while saying, gosh, you're so sweet, bro. And this is gonna help you remember tissue paper cytoplasm. So again, gosh, is gonna help you with Gaucher's. You're so sweet bro, glucocerebroside, and then think of someone that is very thankful and they're crying and they're blowing their nose into a tissue paper. Gosh, you're so sweet, bro, with the tissue paper cytoplasm, and that's gonna help you remember Gaucher's disease. The next one is Hunter's disease. Hunter's disease is due to a deficiency of the enzyme iduronate 2 sulfatase, and this leads to the accumulation of heparin sulfate and dermatan sulfate within the lysosome. This is one of the mucopolysaccharidosis condition. This is actually mucopolysaccharidosis type 2, and this is an X-linked condition as well. Just like Fabry disease, this is also an X-linked condition, and important clue with regard this condition is no corneal clouding, and we'll talk more of that. So how we gonna remember Hunter's disease? We can think of a phrase, X marks the spot, he has a clear shot, I'd run to safety. So you can think of Hunter maybe pointing crossbow at someone with an X, so he got bullseye and an X mark, and yes, he has a clear shot, I'd run to safety. So X marks the spot, so that X is gonna help you remember that X-linked condition. He has a clear shot, so that will help you remember that this is a hunter, and clear shot is gonna help you remember that there's clear corneal or no corneal clouding. I'd run to urinate to safety. The S is also gonna help you, the S in sulfatase, and the 2 here is gonna help you clue in that this is mucopolysaccharidosis type 2. The next condition that we're gonna looking at is Hurler's disease. Hurler's disease is due to a deficiency of the enzyme alpha L iduronate, and this condition leads to the accumulation of heparin sulfate and dermatan sulfate, just like Hunter's disease. And because it leads to the accumulation, the same thing, it actually a mucopolysaccharidosis, just like Hunter's disease, but this is actually mucopolysaccharidosis type 1, whereas Hunter's disease is type 2. Hurler's disease is caused by mutation on chromosome 4, and this condition leads to skeletal abnormalities, hepatosplenomegaly, and severe intellectual disability, and it also leads to corneal clouding. So corneal clouding again is when you look at individuals' cornea, you're gonna see clouding inside the cornea. So you can see here it is very clouded. So how do we remember Hurler's disease? You can think of it by the phrase a big hurricane. Big for hepatosplenomegaly, a big hurricane. Her for Hurler's disease, and a hurricane is clouds, right? There's a lot of clouds in a hurricane, so that's gonna help you remember corneal clouding, a big hurricane. Big for hepatosplenomegaly, her for Hurler's disease, and hurricane is made out of clouds, so corneal clouding. The next condition we're looking is Sanfilippo syndrome. Sanfilippo syndrome is another mucopolysaccharidosis, and this actually mucopolysaccharidosis type 3. There are actually 4 subtypes, type A, B, C, and D, and there is 4 subtypes because there are actually 4 enzymes involved in the metabolism and breakdown of heparan sulfate. So each of these enzymes can affect it, leading to this condition. So essentially, type 3A is actually most common. Type A condition is due to deficiency in heparan sulfate sulfatase or HSS. Type B is due to deficiency in N-acetyl alpha D-glucosaminidase or NIGLU. So deficiency in this enzyme causes type 3B. Type 3C is acetyl-CoA alpha glucosaminide N-acetyl transferase HGSNAT, and that's a very long enzyme name. And then type D is actually caused by deficiency in N-acetylglucosamine 6-sulfate GNS. So many of these you don't really need to remember. There are a lot of big long names for these enzymes. What I really want you to remember is heparan sulfate sulfatase HSS. Think of Sanfilippo syndrome as a deficiency in HSS because all these enzymes involve heparan sulfate metabolism. All these conditions can lead to accumulation of heparan sulfate within the lysosome. And these conditions are all characterized by progressive CNS degeneration. So CNS degeneration, which includes developmental delay in kids, hyperactivity in kids, and sleep disorder to those who have high conditions. The next one we're gonna looking at is Krabs disease. Krabs disease is also known as globoid cell leukodystrophy. It's due to a deficiency of the enzyme beta-galactose cerebrosidase, and it leads to an accumulation of galactocerebroside within the lysosome. When we look at cells under the microscope, we actually see what we call globoid cells. That is why this condition is also called globoid cell leukodystrophy. So, here is a globoid cell. And the way we're gonna remember Krabs disease is by the phrase, "This crab meat is out of this world." So you think you were on a restaurant, so you're eating some crab meat, and you're still thinking, "Wow, this is so amazing. This crab meat is out of this world." So how this will help you remember Krabs disease? Well, obviously, this word crab will help you remember that this is a crab disease, and out of this world will help you remember the globe. So you can think of the world globe, so it's out of this world. Globoid cells, so it's gonna help you remember galaxy, the word galaxy, and the galaxy is out of this world, and it's into the galaxy essentially. So again, this crab meat is out of this world. The world is going to help you with globe or globoid cells, and out of this world is gonna help you remember galactocerebrosidase. Galacto is galaxy. Just think of that. So the next condition that we're talking is Niemann-Pick disease. So Niemann-Pick disease is due to deficiency of the enzyme sphingomyelinase, and it leads to the accumulation of sphingomyelin. This disease have increased prevalence in Ashkenazi Jews, and there's actually a few different subtypes in this condition. Type A and B, essentially the same kind of presentation. They have both hepatosplenomegaly and interstitial lung disease. And type C has dementia and depression. So type C has the dementia and depression, and then type AB has hepatosplenomegaly and interstitial lung disease. And it is also associated with cherry red spot on macula. So when you do ultra microscopic examination, you can see a cherry red spot. And the way you're gonna remember Niemann-Pick disease is by the phrase, "No man picks his nose with his big finger." So how was that gonna help you remember when you need to remember from the slide? Niemann pick his nose, big hepatosplenomegaly, sphingomyelinase. So I hope that helped you remember. The next condition we're looking is Tay-Sachs disease. Tay-Sachs disease is due to deficiency of hexosaminidase A enzyme, and it leads to an accumulation of GM2 ganglioside in lysosome. This condition also has increased prevalence in Ashkenazi Jews, just like Niemann-Pick disease, and it also have a cherry red spot on the macula. So these two conditions are often compared with each other. The big thing is that Tay-Sachs disease doesn't have hepatosplenomegaly while Niemann-Pick does. The way you're gonna remember is by the phrase a gang of 6 small Jews. So a gang for ganglioside 6 is gonna help you remember the prefix hexo. Small is gonna help you remember no hepatosplenomegaly, and Jews is gonna help you remember that this condition has an increased prevalence in Ashkenazi Jews. So we just ran over a different conditions. Congratulations for making this part. So just to review and summarize what we've learned in this lesson, the lysosome uptakes and metabolizes many different compounds, and if there's any issues in the enzyme within the lysosome bringing the variety of disorders, and this include Niemann-Pick and Tay-Sachs. So again, Niemann-Pick disease leads to an accumulation of sphingomyelin, has a cherry red spot, and it has hepatosplenomegaly, whereas Tay-Sachs is opposite to the Niemann-Pick because it has an accumulation in the ganglioside. So remember, a gang of 6 small Jews, you're also gonna see a cherry red spot in Tay-Sachs, but it has no hepatosplenomegaly. The other conditions are Fabry's disease. Is X-linked, it has an accumulation of ceramide and trihexoside. I fabricated the ceramic galaxy is gonna help you remember Fabry's disease. Krabs disease, it has globid cells and it has an accumulation of galactocerebroside. For Gaucher, you're going to have tissue paper cytoplasm and you're gonna have an accumulation of glucocerebroside. Hunter is X-linked, so you can remember X marks spots. So Hunter and Fabry are the only two X-linked conditions where there is no corneal clouding. So in Hunter's disease, you can think he has a clear shot. Think of Hunter here has a clear line of sight, so something that help you remember that Hunter has no corneal clouding. While Hurler's does have corneal clouding, and you can think of a big hurricane, big for hepatosplenomegaly. In Hurler's disease, her for Hurler and hurricane is made out of big cloud and corneal clouding, and San Filippo has progressive CNS degenerations, and there are 4 different subtypes we're talking, and all of these mucopolysaccharidosis lead to an accumulation of heparin or heparin sulfate and dermatan sulfate. And if there is any issues in export proteins or exporters in the lysosomal membranes, it can lead to an accumulation of metabolites, and this is what actually causes cystinosis. So cystinosis is caused by a defect in the export protein known as cystinosin, and this leads to an accumulation of cystine, which is the breakdown prime of the metabolism.